Well, hello everyone. We're back again with another video. This time we are handling a commission for Red Dusk. This is actually something that we were supposed to do initially. We did do initially many months ago, but the problems with the audio and, well, some parts of the scripting with some of my co-hosts like Balrog didn't exactly get to pan out correctly because he didn't get a lot of the speaking sections when he wanted to. And we also realized, like, technically multiple people weren't needed to say the same parts for this thing because it was only like a 30-minute video, so I guess I'll just be going through it myself. But yeah, this is the commission for Red Dusk. We had initially done a commission for him to basically prompt a scenario in which Dante from Devil May Cry is put into a verse of our choosing, and we basically script a story scenario, a very extensive one, similar to the protagonist swapped, in which he's just walking around in the world essentially trying to accomplish his goals, but he's also very interested in hooking up with girls and sort of establishing a life. That was part of like the story, was that he was supposed to sort of like hook up with one or several people that he was interested in for like a relationship, and also how he would explore the world. So we chose Bleach. I kind of already covered this in a previous summary video along with a lot of the contents of the actual scenario. This is just going to be the episodic breakdown. So if you want to watch that, go check that out. I'll try to see if Zim can put it in the description of this video. But overall, that should explain all the scenarios, as well as like everything that goes into it prior to this. Okay. As for the episodic breakdown itself, it'll be pretty simple. We're just going to have Dante basically arrive in the Bleach world, at least prior to the first, well, I guess during the first episode, he arrives in the middle of the world of living, inside Katakura town, right below the border of the Mitsumi district. And he enters a construction site midday, in the middle of May, the same day Rukia Kuchiki is basically sent to the world of the living. Right? And he basically draws the attention of the Hollows with his presence and energy. After he kills them, this attracts Kisuke Urahara to investigate, leading him to offer a bargain to Dante. A job with room and board and information about the Bleach world and things to do, while Kisuke gets basically a new research specimen and can accelerate whatever goals he has in terms of, I mean, any of his projects by virtue of what he'll be getting with Dante and potentially stopping Aizen's. The main plot of the episode will also play out as follows. Dante will demand information about the end of the episode to explain what Hollows in the world of the living are, and Kisuke will grant him those in exchange for Dante accepting this arrangement. I kind of already mentioned this before in the previous one, but I'll mention it now. But like, the main reason Kisuke is also offering this is because he is genuinely interested in what Dante has to offer, because Dante to him is gonna seem really, really strange in terms of his like powers, because he's gonna fight like a Soul Reaper, he's gonna destroy things like a Quincy, and he's gonna feel like a Hollow, because his energy is gonna be very, very weird. So Kisuke is obviously going to want to capitalize on that and try to figure out what exactly is going on and put that to some kind of like test analysis and some deductive reasoning. So episode 2 is going to proceed in a somewhat a similar manner. Dante is basically going to get enrolled in a school in order to spy on Ichigo under Kisuke's orders, because Kisuke is currently interested in what Ichigo also has to offer, spiritual pressure-wise. Dante agrees with the assumption that he will be able to engage in the social circumstances of high school, basically socializing, hitting on girls, participating in school clubs, living like a teenager, basically. This is something that he never got the opportunity to do back in his own world, so he decided, like, hey, I'm going to do it here. He basically ends up making it into the school with ease. And we could say this because Rukia, Toshido's advanced strike team, and Shinji were all able to infiltrate the schools and acquire uniforms with the greatest of ease. We can also just say Kisuke will give him a school uniform to wear while on school grounds, and he'll wear his trademark red coat whenever he goes out to kill hollows. Dante will also be able to conceal rebellion and his pistols in his guitar case like he does in the anime, so he'll carry them around on his person. Dante will end up in most of Ichigo's classes wherein the main events of Bleach during school hours take place. During the event in which Ichigo is pulled out of the classroom by Rukia, Dante will end up spotting him being extracted from his physical body by Rukia from the window, and then will then question Urahara at the end of the episode about this phenomenon, at which point Kisuke will explain to him the nature of Soul Reapers. Dante will also meet Tatsuki in this episode, coming into contact with her in the karate class. Episode 3 proceeds as normally. Dante goes about his daily business and routines. The only important sections of the information here is that Dante gets more emotionally involved in the cast due to Orihime basically getting damage, receiving damage in her fight with her brother Sora. Dante will notice something's wrong with her leg, as well as the fact that she and Tatsuki have something wrong with the energy around their bodies due to the hollow attacking them. Episodes 4 and 5 are kind of getting combined together because they both include the Shrieker hollow. So Dante will still maintain his role in this episode that he'll be performing in the previous episodes. This episode will elicit a different reaction to him, though, since it involves the Shrieker. Once Ichigo bails from class to go look for Chad with Rukia in tow, Dante will probably ask to get excused from class to use the restroom and then track Ichigo for a couple minutes. Once Ichigo goes home to deliver Karin to his house after she passes out in the street, Dante will head nearby to a location in order to watch the Shrieker fight. Once it concludes and the gates of hell open, Dante's DT will go off due to the appearance and the energy of the gates. Dante will then discover he is no longer in the DMC universe, as this hell is uniformly different from his own, and he'll flee to Kisuke's shop in order to stay hidden from Ichigo and company. Kisuke will then be able to proc Dante for answers about this transformation when he witnesses it, confirming that Dante is neither a Hollow nor a Soul Reaper, but something else entirely. He will also explain the gates of hell to Dante directly, along with the information relevant to it. This will prompt Kisuke an attempt to run tests on Dante's blood and soul to figure out what his quote-unquote demonic energy is. It is at this point that Rukia is going to begin to start getting suspicious, since she basically is present around Chad when they're fighting the Shrieker Hollow. She's going to sense some weird burst of energy, some weird phenomenon near their position that's like fleeing really quickly. Episodes 6 and 7 are going to be combined because they both cover Cone. They proceed to schedule until the lunch scene with Cone. Dante will step outside the classroom to go get lunch and will stop once he receives a phone call from Kisuke. Kisuke will inform him that there's been a defective product, a mod Konpaku, an artificial soul engineered to be a super soldier currently on the loose and is most likely occupying either Rukia or Ichigo's body. Dante will basically hear the crashes of the desks in the classroom and Tatsuki's yelling, and then will proceed to leave the phone call to return to the classroom. After he arrives, Rukia and Ichigo will also arrive shortly afterwards, alerting Dante to the fact that Cone is currently inside Ichigo's body because there are currently 2 Ichigos in the room. He'll first check out to see what happened to Tatsuki first, only to figure out that Cone basically pecked a kiss on her face while in Ichigo's body. Slightly irritated by this, Dante is going to proceed to leave during the lunch hour and pursue Cone on foot. Once they arrive at the location that the Hollow comes to, Dante will defeat the Hollow in question and then toss Rebellion towards Cone, separating his mod soul candy from Ichigo's body. It's at this point that Rukia and Ichigo will arrive to take back the candy, with Rukia basically giving Dante the same lecture she gave Kisuke in the show about taking products from customers. She'll also question what Dante is supposed to be, alongside Ichigo. Dante will be reluctant to let him go, but will probably do so once Ichigo gives him a lecture on Kone's right to life and free will. Dante will then give them a sort of who knows answer to his physiology. Tells them we'll see back at class. Kind of the same thing he gave when Cerberus basically questioned what he is. Because it's probably the best way he can answer that question, for being completely honest. Dante will then... or at this point, Rukia will discover that Dante is currently working under Kisuke's employment, since he was retrieved to go get Cone. After getting back to class, Dante will tell Tatsuki he told Ichigo to stop being a loser, which will then result in a conversation later in which Dante compels Ichigo to apologize for Kone's behavior after beating him in a karate match. This is done so that Dante can get an excuse to gauge how strong Ichigo is supposed to be, but will accomplish both circumstances. Socially speaking, it will also improve his standard, as Tatsuki will most likely approve of this apology, especially after a karate match display, lending her onto the Hogyoku to follow a little bit more for Dante. Dante will also press Kisuke for more information about Cone, giving Kisuke an excuse to explain what mod souls are and Project Spearhead as a whole. Episode 8 and 9 cover the Grand Fisher scenario. This episode is going to proceed in a standard fashion. Dante will go about his day until a combo with Tatsuki pops up in the middle of the classroom. After he overhears her chat with Orihime about Ichigo skipping school, he'll ask what's up, and she'll let him know it's the anniversary of his mother's death. Dante will probably be a little distant towards this information as it's quite relatable and personal to him. Tatsuki will probably tell him there's nothing... probably tell him she knows he'd like to help Ichigo, but there's nothing he can really do. Dante will most likely disagree and tell her his mother also died around the same age. Ichigo's dead, so I'll probably assume that there's something he can actually do to help Ichigo move forward emotionally, since he can relate to him. Sometime after this combo, he's going to sense Ichigo's family being attacked in the graveyard, and against Kisuke's orders to not draw attention, Dante is going to go out to assist his family against the Grand Fisher. He'll arrive shortly after Ichigo makes it on the scene in his Soul Reaper form, though Dante will stealth his presence as Virgil did in DMC3's manga, preventing him from being detected. Dante will survey the battle between Ichigo and Grand Fisher, probably waiting for an opportunity to step in, as he'll sense that Grand Fisher is currently more powerful than Ichigo at a great danger to his life. Once he realizes that Grand Fisher is the one who killed Ichigo's mother, and he heard Ichigo refuse Rukia's help in the battle, he will leave abruptly as he understands that this is something that Ichigo has to do on his own. Episode 10. This is the Don Kanonji one. So Dante will attend Don Kanonji's show out of mild amusement, an opportunity to go out with Tatsuki and Orihime to the show. This episode will proceed as expected, with Dante basically having a laugh when Ichigo gets tackled by security. Kisuke will arrive and remove him from his body, and the episode will continue and conclude the same way, with Dante basically using this as an opportunity to hang out with the rest of the game, like Chad and Mizuro and Keigo stuff. So he's just going to be like a social butterfly at this time. Then episodes 11, 12, 13... and 14 are all going to be combined together. So in the first of these four, number 11, Dante will hear the conversation between Rukia and Kisuke when she asks about what Quincy's are, because he's going to be in the shop at the time. He'll be curious enough to investigate this clan of people that can manipulate spirit energy, as it will no doubt remind him of the Demon Disciple clan that raised Temenaguru's tower, basically the theme of humans gaining spiritual power, and pipe his curiosity. He'll identify during certain holo attacks that Quincy's are indeed destroying the holos completely, and thus will attempt to investigate Uryu directly in order to determine his motives. Uryu will appear before Ichigo in the same manner he did normally, breaking the holo bay to unleash the holos in the middle of town. Dante is going to notice almost immediately, due to the holos breaking through the sky, and will probably reconcile that he needs to get to Orihime, Tatsuki, and Chad, as at this point he's knowledgeable enough on holos to determine that they seek out those with spirit energy. He'll probably be slicing and dicing holos outside and around the school, since Orihime and Tatsuki are in danger. We'll assume he rushes to go help them, and then realizes Orihime is releasing some kind of power that allows her to fight the numb chandelier holo. Dante will stop himself once he realizes her powers are being awakened, watching her kill the holo. After she passes out and Kisuke arrives with Tezai carrying Chad, Kisuke will explain the situation to Dante, who will then offer to help them after he takes Tatsuki home. Then he will rendezvous with Kisuke at the location where Ichigo and Uryu are located and are currently pursuing the holo killing contest. Once he does, they'll take care of the holos along with Uryu's group, and then watch as the conclusion plays out. Episode 15 is just going to cover development for the various characters. I believe this is basically one of the episodes. It's not exactly filler, but it's like an episode that is meant to showcase the period of time, like right as the end of the semester is ending, right before their summer vacations. And this will just give Dante and Ichigo and all the cast the opportunity to start talking. Ichigo and Dante are just going to have a conversation about what he is, and he's just going to tell him, like, listen, I'm not human. It would take me more time than I have to explain. And I'm not really sure of what that, like, of exactly what it is. I just don't like seeing a lot of innocent people being attacked by holos. Ichigo's probably going to tell him this is the reason, like, he has a similar feeling about it, and this is the reason he needs more power, which will probably end up causing Dante to associate him with Virgil. We'll assume their interactions will be very similar to how Dante and Nero acted on a more wholesome level if they just got into devil hunting together without being directly related to one another. Especially when, canonically, Nero has the same voice actor as Ichigo. So, this will also give Orihime, Chad, and Uryu a chance to warm up to him after the discovery of his powers following the holo-killing contest, as he will meet and talk with them individually during points of the episode. Where this will deviate a bit is that the Soul Society is going to decide to send another Lieutenant-class Soul Reaper in addition to Renji in order to combat both the human who took her powers and the spiritual reading they got during the holo-killing contest. Their primary goal is the same as what was in the original story. Capture Rukia, kill the holo that took her powers. A secondary objective that's not so much the priority would be to locate the source of this reading that has arisen several times at this point in the last month, and capture the source of it and retrieve it for containment procedures. How this kind of differs from the original is that in the original they only send Renji and Byakuya, but they'll have a reason to do so here because of what Dante's been doing. Episodes 16 to 17. Renji, Rangiku, and Byakuya will be sent to the world of the living to enact the mission listed in the previous episode. Episode will proceed as planned until Kisuke arrives at Ichigo's house to retrieve his soul body so that Ichigo can go help Rukia. He'll tell Dante not to get involved, but this time Dante will do so anyway, as he'll sense there are 3 individuals with power nearing his own approaching Rukia's position. He'll arrive after Ichigo begins the fight with Renji. Once Ichigo starts trashing Renji and then gets attacked by Byakuya, Dante will step in. Given the level of power we started him at, and his power increases over the scenario, we'll say he'll be able to react to Byakuya attacking him and strike back against them, as well as Rangiku in an attempt to cut them down. It's at this moment that they'll question if he was involved with the attacks on the Menos Grande, to which Dante will tell them, yeah, I was. Rangiku will most likely request the Gentei Kaijo release on their bodies, at which point Rukia will willfully give herself up, since Ichigo is basically a blood bank on the floor, along with Uryu being unconscious, and she'll assume that regardless of how strong Dante is, he can't beat her brother. The Soul Reapers will accept and take her back, basically on the premise that even though they have a secondary optional objective, their primary goal is technically just to get Rukia back and to kill the Ryoka. That's like their main reason. They're not necessarily here to get Dante. They also don't know what he is at this point, and it'd be better to have more data at a later time. So they do vow to come back to get him. Rukia is also assuming that no matter how strong that Dante is, he can't beat her brother. The Soul Reapers are going to take her, leaving Dante to get Ichigo and Uryu and deliver them back to Kisuke to get healed. The end of the episode will conclude with Ichigo basically recovering from the event and wanting to go back to the Soul Society. Episodes 18, 19, and 20 will proceed as expected, though there will be some changes here. Dante will volunteer to train with Ichigo after Ichigo achieves Zangetsu. This will considerably boost his level of power, as well as boosting Dante's technically, sending Dante into a higher placement of power within the verse. At this point, we'll say he's about as strong as Renji in his Bankai state at the end of the Soul Society in base. Ichigo will be about lieutenant level going to the Soul Society instead of being at a 4th seats level. Uryu will be even more motivated to get stronger, as he was not only unable to do anything to help Rukia, he couldn't help Ichigo either, and Dante had to step in his place. He'll probably be around the same level that he was during the Soul Society arc, though he'll be much more determined to prove himself. Chad and Orihime will remain unchanged at the moment. During the fireworks show, about a week before their summer vacations, most of the characters will say their goodbyes to those around them in order to prepare for the Soul Society journey. Dante will meet Tatsuki somewhere, basically telling her he's taking a trip somewhere. He apparently has to travel to a hometown of some friend he knows and has to help with an investigation into her background in hopes of clearing her name, an obligation that's going to take his time up long-term over the summer. Before they're done talking, you'll probably have Dante float the idea of going to a show like this again, but with Tatsuki specifically, after the summer's over. Given the time they spent together, the effect of the Hogyoku, Dante's demonic desires, we could say that she'll accept it then, and only then, but because both of them will be busy for the summer and they have something later planned. Tatsuki will also have some karate tournaments and things she needs to attend to, too. Finally, we get to the end of the first arc with all the gang rendezvous at the base below Urahara shop. When Kisuke brings out the spiritual matter conversion gate, he will explain the premise as he did in the original story and have everyone step through except Dante. There is a minor problem with the spirit conversion gate, more specifically how it would interact with Dante's physiology, that kind of needs to be mentioned here. I'll mention it as those in recording, though, I'm referring to when I say converting Dante's physical matter permanently into spiritual energy in the Soul Society is a very bad idea. Thus, after explaining this phenomenon, Kisuke Kisuke will go through just the gate one more time, and Dante will step through, entering the Dangai on his way to the Soul Society. So basically, the main problem with this is that the spiritual conversion gate, at least in the original show and the manga, which we'll be using both of them, but we're following like the events through the anime. How it works is that it converts all Kenshi, which is living matter, into Reishi, which is spiritual matter. The problem is that Dante is mostly human. Even though he's half demon, a lot of that has to do with his soul and the demonic energy running through his body. Because of this, if you were to take his living matter and put it under a matter converter and convert it into pure spiritual energy, that would just transform him into his Devil Trigger state, which means he would basically be in Devil Trigger if he were to go through a Senkai mode into the Soul Society. I don't think I need to explain why that would be like a horrible idea for the scenario, but for anyone who's, I guess, just curious of what that would entail, he would constantly be hitting everybody with a bunch of different side effects all the fucking time. He would grow drastically too powerful. He would immediately be perceived as a hollow by almost everyone around him, including the people in his party, which is not good. And everyone would be encouraged to kill him would directly target him as opposed to everyone else in his party, which would really be like a bad situation. Not to mention, he'd also be absorbing a ton of the soul and spiritual energy around him because of how his demonic energy works, so he could potentially end up hurting people around him. So yeah, Kisuke, after he got the blood sample from the previous episode, is just going to be like, yeah, your energy is really volatile, so I'm just going to put a converter on this gate, and I'm just going to adjust it one more time after they go through, and I'll account for the cleaner, and then send you in, and then, yeah. So that should pretty much be the entire scenario. Again, people might not understand what I'm talking about if they didn't read the summary video. You have to watch the summary video. That will explain, like, the conditions, the notes, a lot of the stuff that goes into this scenario, like what version of Dante I'm using, what concessions and things are being made, what level of power Dante's at, what the factions are doing, more information about his direct goal, etc. Like, this is more so just what's happening once we account for all of those factors. Alright, I think that's pretty much everything. So, yeah. That should be it for at least the Substitute Soul Reaper arc of the commission. So, I'll try and see if Zim can get this uploaded. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.